Welcome to Mic Drop, the podcast where relevancy is irrelevant and we don't give a shit about your feelings. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome myself back to the podcast. This is the Mic Drop special reading edition of my book, Unfuck America, Chapter 1. America, the Rich, Spoiled Brat. As Americans, we'd like to think of ourselves as the smartest, wealthiest, freest, best nation in the world. It was only a couple hundred years ago that we, a passionate group of everyday people, rose up and fought to have a country of our own. We had big ideas and ideals. We wanted to see the government conducted in a new way. We wanted to be independent and free. We wanted to be great. And so, from the time of the Revolutionary War to the period that followed the end of World War II, we put the United States on the map, both figuratively and literally. In the scope of history, a couple hundred years is but a mere blip. As a nation, we've accomplished a lot in that short amount of time. We've created a new form of government. We built a country founded on independence and freedom. We've grown in power and wealth, and we've made incredible technological advancements. We've earned the reputation of being the land of opportunity, respected by the world and regarded as strong, wealthy, and free. Since the end of World War II and the period just after, we have clutched the coattails of our previous successes and advancements, enjoying the upward swing of the momentum that those before us created. But we haven't done a lot to live up to the standards our predecessors set, and we haven't generated much forward and upward momentum of our own in the past several decades. Sure, we've advanced technology and medicine. It's nothing to sneeze at. We've optimized our lives down to the tiniest detail. But as a society, we're falling short, woefully short. We simply haven't held ourselves to the same standards that those before us set, and it shows. If you aren't sure, don't take my word for it. Sit tight until the end of this chapter, because we're going to look at some hard data on this. The state of our country today can, and in many ways, be compared to a chubby, rich, spoiled brat who's born into the fruits of his father's labor. The father worked tirelessly to create a better life than the one he had as a child. His son is born into the product of his blood, sweat, and tears. This success and wealth are his reality from birth. He's never known any different. The son is safe, happy, and well-fed. His needs are provided for him. His life is optimized, easy, and free of care. The father assumes that with such ample opportunity and resources, the son will soar to greater heights of success and advance further than he had been able to. He can only dream of the greatness that his son will achieve. But, to the father's surprise and disappointment, the son seems preoccupied, easily stressed and exhausted by small things, unwilling to sacrifice comfort in the quest for success. He doesn't strive the way his father did. He isn't accustomed to challenge and hardship. Instead, he's lazy, overfed, complacent, and entitled. And he's fucking miserable. The problem is, he's so fucked up that he doesn't even know he's fucked up. If you ask him if his family is wealthy, powerful, respected, and safe, he'd answer yes without a second thought. Of course they were. They've always been, haven't they? What the chubby, spoiled rich kid doesn't realize is that he won't remain wealthy, powerful, and respected and safe by default. Sure, it will appear that way for a time as he enjoys the life his father has created. But his way of living has an expiration date. It can't and won't last forever. The same could be said of America today. Ask anyone if we are the freest, happiest, most powerful nation, and most people will answer yes without a second thought. But are we really? Is anyone actually taking a hard look at reality to see if that is still true and if it's going to remain true? Most of us are turning a blind eye like the spoiled brat who throws bills and balance statements in the corner, assuming that the life he's enjoyed will always be there. The problem is that although he can choose denial for a while, shit will eventually hit the fan and reality will be a bitch. And the amount of shit hitting that fan will only grow the longer he avoids it. There is a window of time in which the kid can face reality, clean up his act, get his ass to work, and turn things around. But if he allows that window to pass, he's staring down bankruptcy and the destruction of everything he's been handed. And that's where we are as a nation today. We are in a window of time when we can still get our act together. We can still take all the resources and opportunity that was hard-earned and worked for that has been handed to us, and we can still reach for greatness. But if that window passes, we risk losing everything. We have to be proactive, because if we find ourselves in the position of being reactive, it's already too late. It's time to take a hard look in the mirror and face reality. As I said, it's not pretty. But if we're going to face the facts on where we are today and how we got here, only then can we begin to move forward. Our mental health. On average, there are 132 suicides per day in the United States. According to the CDC, suicide rates went up more than 30% in half of states since 1999. What's more, 54% of people who died by suicide did not have a known mental health condition. 54% did not. According to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, in 2018 alone, 48,344 people died from suicide. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. In 2018, the CDC estimates that 1.4 million suicide attempts took place. It's 1.4 million people tried to kill themselves. It also estimates that in 2015, suicide and self-injury cost the United States $69 billion. It also surprised me to find out that the rate of suicide is highest in middle-aged white men. White males accounted for 69.67% of suicide deaths in 2018, and men died by suicide 3.56 times more often than women. According to the Military Times, the total number of suicide among veterans has increased 4 of the last 5 years on record. From 2007 to 2017, the rate of suicide among veterans jumped almost 50%. Other mental health issues have skyrocketed as well. According to the CDC, more than 50% of the population will be diagnosed with a mental illness or disorder at some point in their lifetime. 1 in 5 Americans will experience a mental health illness in a given year, and 1 in 5 children, either currently or at some point during their life, will have a debilitating mental illness. Our drug abuse and addictions. Substance abuse and drug overdose are also at an all-time high. According to that same CDC data from the National Vital Statistics System, there were 70,237 drug overdose deaths in the United States in 2019. Author note, that has skyrocketed well over 100,000 for 2021, just FYI. The age-adjusted rate of drug overdose deaths increased from 6.1 per 100,000 standard population in 1999 to 21.7 in 2017. So from 1999 to 2017, it went from 6.1 per 100,000 to 21.7 per 100,000. That's almost a 4x increase. The rate increased by 10% per year from 99 to 06, by 3% per year from 06 to 14, and then by 16% per year from 2014 through 2017. According to the Addiction Center, drug overdose deaths have more than tripled Since 1990, and alcohol and drug addiction cost the U.S. economy over $600 billion a year. $600 billion a year for drug addiction and alcohol issues. The opioid crisis in particular is out of control. According to the CDC, from 1999 to 2018, almost 450,000 people died from an overdose involving any opioid, including prescription and illicit opioids. What are the two key components for K9 success? That's effective training and proper nutrition. Fueled by Team Dog brings those two components to your family and best friend. The perfect nutritional balance that results in a higher mental acuity, energy, overall vitality, and even an improved appearance. Every product you will find in my company's store was born from the battlefield and not from the boardroom. Let my life's work help you become your dog's hero. The number of drug overdose deaths was 4 times higher in 2018 than in 1999. Since 1999, the sale of opioid painkillers has skyrocketed by 300%. It's estimated that between 20 and 30% of all people who take prescription opioids misuse them, and about 10% of the people who misuse prescription opioids become addicted to opioids. According to the Addiction Center, about 130 Americans die every day from an opioid overdose. 130 a day. From 1999 to 2017, 399,230 Americans lost their lives just to opioids. In 2017 alone, 47,600 fatal overdoses occurred in the United States, which involved at least one opioid, and doctors issued, get this, 191,218,272 opioid prescriptions. Do the math on that. That's almost half the country. That's actually over half the country. Sorry, I'm bad at math. The problem keeps growing. It was an estimated 2 million Americans misused prescription opioids for the first time in 2017. Approximately 2.1 million Americans have an opioid use disorder. About 5% of people with an opioid use disorder will try heroin. The numbers are also staggering for cocaine, methamphetamine, and heroin. I could fill pages with statistics on just the drug problem alone in our nation. Our alcoholism. According to the CDC, excessive alcohol use is responsible for about 1 in 10 total deaths among working-age adults aged 20 to 64. In 2010, excessive alcohol use cost the United States economy $249 billion, or $2.05 a drink. About 40% of these costs were paid by federal, state, and local governments. It's estimated that 37 million U.S. adults, or 1 in 6, binge drink about once a week, consuming an average of 7 drinks per binge. On average, 30 Americans die every day in an alcohol-related car accident. 30 a day. 6 Americans die every day from alcohol poisoning. Approximately 88,000 people die as a result of alcohol every year in the United States. Author's note, between opioid issues and alcohol issues, you're looking at in the upwards of $1 trillion that it's costing our economy. I want you to think about that for a minute when we're talking about budgets and healthcare and things of that nature. Our addictions. Gambling and pornography usage has also increased. Gaming revenue for the U.S. commercial casino industry reached an all-time high of $41.7 billion in 2018, up 3.5% from the previous year, according to data released today in the American Gaming Association. The AGA survey of the commercial casino industry. The famed explicit site Pornhub recently stated that its site received over 30 billion hits in 2018. Author's note, that's 2018. Rest assured, over COVID, with all of this stuff, these numbers have skyrocketed significantly. Of those hits, the United States was the biggest consumer. Americans stayed on the site longer than any other nationality, and their time spent viewing porn increased from the previous year. We're also facing another type of addiction that we've never seen before, and that is one of a technology addiction. According to the CDC, kids aged 8 to 18 now spend, on average, a whopping 7.5 hours in front of a screen for entertainment each fucking day. 7.5 hours a day, on average, kids 8 to 18 are in front of a screen per day. Over a year, that adds up to 114 full days watching a screen. And that's just the time that they spend in front of a screen for entertainment. Okay? That's not the time that they spend on a computer at school or for educational purposes, etc., home/homework. And parents, unfortunately, we aren't much better. Many adults spend in excess of 12 hours per day in front of a screen of some kind. Some research shows that the top 20% of smartphone users have daily screen time in excess of 4.5 hours. A recent survey found the average American checks their phone 47 times a day. Our physical health. Obesity, heart disease, and nutrition-based issues are also way the fuck out of control. According to the CDC, the prevalence of obesity was 42.4% in 2017 and 2018. Again, since COVID shutdowns, etc., that number has skyrocketed. From 1999 through 2018, the prevalence of obesity increased from 30.5% to 42.4%. 30 to 42. Okay? That's in less than 2 decades. The prevalence of severe obesity increased from 4.7% to 9.2%. That means it has over doubled. It's right at double that people are severely obese in this country. Obesity-related conditions include heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and certain types of cancer that are some of the leading causes of preventable premature death. The estimated annual medical cost of obesity in the United States was $147 billion. Author's note. This estimated $147 billion in 2008, the medical cost for people who have obesity was $1,429 higher than those of an average weight. The prevalence of childhood obesity was 18.5%, and it affects about 13.7 million children and adolescents. And it's not just obesity. According to the CDC, one person dies every 37 seconds in the United States from cardiovascular disease. About 647,000 Americans die from heart disease every year. That is 1 in 4 deaths. Heart disease costs the United States about $219 billion each year from 2014 to 2015. This includes the cost of healthcare services, medicines, and lost productivity due to health. Author's note, I want to remind you that if you look at shitty eating, alcohol, and opioids, that's well in excess of $1 trillion a year that it costs our country. Getting a handle on that is the key to our country not having a healthcare crisis, not having a budget and deficit crisis. Do the math on that. It's a very simple equation. Our education system. The United States education system also continue to suffer. Our rankings worldwide are just plain embarrassing when you look at the high school graduates we're producing versus the rest of the world. According to World Population Review, despite the United States having the second best education system in the world, it consistently scores lower than many other countries in benchmarks such as math and science, and its education ranking was 38th in math scores and 24th in science. Okay, I'm going to read that again. Our international ranking in math is 38. Our international ranking in science is 24. The United States education rankings have been falling by international standards over the past 3 decades, as the government has decreased education funding by 3%. Other countries have increased their education funding. So don't say I didn't warn you, because I did. The truth isn't pretty right now. If statistics like this don't alarm you, I don't know what the fuck would. You'd think that with all the natural resources we've been given, the freedoms we enjoy compared to the rest of the world, and the opportunities we're afforded, that we would be soaring. You'd think we'd be happier, healthier, and wealthier than ever. But we are quite literally killing ourselves. We are the chubby, entitled rich kid who spends his days eating, drinking, surfing porn, and popping pills. This cannot be the world that we hand to our children. This cannot be the mark we leave on history. But despite how unsettling these facts are, this isn't even the scariest part. The scary part is that surrounding each one of these issues is a minefield of polarizing political views, biased media, and mobs of people shouting so fucking loud that no one can hear a damn thing. Every issue I've shed light on above is caught in a battlefield of opposing views. Our country can't agree on a solution for a single one of these issues. Everything is politicized right now. The average person feels the undercurrent of agenda and the pressure to pick sides on things that should never have become a battle in the first place. We are so busy screaming out our own beliefs and opinions, so busy choosing sides and stupidly spouting off the party line and position without thinking for ourselves that nothing can be accomplished. What's more, our society has become so incredibly divided and polarized that we live in a time where we hate those with conflicting beliefs. We lack basic human empathy for those who do not share our perspectives and values. We are so convinced of our own positions, so accustomed to our echo chambers of like minds, that we are incredulous to that anyone could disagree with us, and we feel justified to hate and wish them harm when they do. It's pathetic. We celebrate the demise of those with differing stances. We laugh and jeer when personal information is exploited on our tabloids, as long as it's at the expense of the other side. We celebrate the crumbling and total destruction of professional and political careers. We have even grown alarmingly more comfortable with violence and wrongful imprisonment, turning a blind eye and not giving a flying fuck as long as it's not one of our people. We have removed all human association with the other side. We look at those who politically disagree with us as the enemy. When did it become okay to hate our fellow countrymen simply because of differing opinions? This should be the thing that alarms us the most. People often ask, how was it possible for the Holocaust to take place? One man cannot pull off an atrocity of that magnitude by himself. How was it that Hitler convinced thousands of people to follow him? How could people be motivated to round up their fellow men, throw them into cattle cars, herd them into gas chambers, and smile as they shoved their bones into the earth? The answer lies in the fact that it did not happen overnight. It happened over a period of time as media and strategic propaganda made every aspect of life politicized and pushed people into becoming polarized. As people were forced to take sides, the gap between them widened, and it widened until each side could look across the divide and no longer see humans, only enemies. We are not there yet, but do not be naive enough to think that it couldn't happen if we don't make a change. I think the turmoil created by the summer 2020 riots on one side and the storming of the Capitol building during Biden's electoral certification on the other shows just how goddamn dangerously close we are to exactly that. The greatest threat to our society does not lurk out in the distance or across some ocean. It lies right here within our borders. We have become our own worst enemy. In the following chapters, we will discuss the contributing factors that led us to the place that we find ourselves in today. Sad, angry, offended, addicted, and hateful. It is vastly important that we recognize the patterns and elements in our society that brought us to where we are now. It is the only way we will ever be able to remove our blinders and biases, lay down our swords, shut up, and actually move forward toward the betterment of our society. All right, folks, that was chapter 1. A quick kind of summary on my take is just how vitally important looking at data is. Oftentimes we are emotionally charged and use single examples of something that we saw or that happened, something that's anecdotal in our lives to help form our opinions on national level. It's largely created by the media, force-feeding narratives that aren't as big of a deal as they want us to think they are. But that's where it falls on us as an individual to not just be spoon-fed and actually look at hard data to say, okay, these are the numbers. This is what's actually plaguing our society. I felt a significant need to ensure that all of the data was corroborated by multiple sources and ensure that, that the things that are actually plaguing this country from a numbers standpoint are what we talk about and not just what's thrown out there. I want to reiterate that, the biggest things causing problems in this country are the way people eat, opioid addictions, and alcohol. When you combine that with sitting in front of a screen for, 7.5 hours a day between the ages of 8 and 18, which is staggering, and adults are largely not better, and in some cases even worse, where it's 12 hours. It's easy to see how we've gotten ourselves into the position that we're in. Those couple of key problems, if addressed properly, could vastly turn this country around into a completely different place. But that starts with us. The following chapters, I will get into each individual specific issue and more data points and more specific kind of action that we can take collectively as a society. But I hope you enjoyed chapter 1, and we'll see you for chapter 2. Thanks.